Hi everyone, Nigel Saunders here. Today I'm going to be doing some more early spring pruning. I'm going to start with my oldest royal oaks. They've leafed out and there's a lot of branches that need selecting. Where I cut the top off this tree, I've got this multitude of branches and I have to select which ones I'm going to keep. And I'll also shorten the new growth back to get more finer branching and more ramification. Here's a look at the royal oaks. So I started these from seed. Last year on this one I cut the top off. It was getting really tall. And you can see I have a cluster of branches growing from that spot. So I'll have to select my branches. The smaller one is looking really good. It's got a good canopy on it. So I'll be doing a lot of shortening of these long branches just to get movement and taper to them and more ramification or more branching. My goal for these trees is to grow them in a natural style so they look like miniature replicas of giant oaks you would see in nature. I'm going to begin the pruning now. So I'm just looking at the structure of the trees. I have a nice kind of thick upright branch here which I really like. It does have quite a cluster of branches on the end. So I need to find a leader off of this branch, one that will continue the branch growing, and I think it'll be this one here. So I'm going to prune off this shoot right here, taking the top off of it. I have kind of a more horizontal branch coming off, and I have a leaf facing outwards here, so I'm going to prune it really far back to that leaf. So I'll have an upright branch that continues this branch line and then a horizontal branch coming off of it. I do have one coming off the back here and it's kind of growing a bit on the inside. So I'm going to remove that branch entirely. Like that. And then I have another branch down lower which is nice. I'm just going to prune the tip off of that one using directional pruning. So I want it to grow out in this direction. So I'm going to just take the tip off right there. And that's got that branch pruned up. There is a leaf sticking up on the inside here I'm going to remove just so it has a little more light in that area. And there's one on the inside here I can remove. So all these leaves are getting good light. There's also one on the inside here I can remove like that. So now all my leaves are fanning out and there's good light to get to the new buds that are at the base of each one of these leaves. So that's got one branch pruned up. Now if I go up, I've got a thin branch here that the bud has not come out yet, but I think it will. It looks like it's still alive. If it's not, I'll leave it on and see if it develops. If it doesn't develop, I can prune it off in the future. At the apex here, I have several upright branches. And I have one on the outside here, which is nice. And then there's a duplicate branch underneath it, which is just too horizontal at this point, so I'm taking it right off. If I don't thin this apex here, with this cluster of branches, you'll get a thickening in this area. You'll get kind of a ball shape. Ball shape thickening there. So here I have, again, on this side I have two branches. And I think the one I'm going to choose is the one coming out the front, the smaller one, and prune off this one. So that gets this apex down to 3 branches now. I have a new one coming from behind here, and there's one growing out the back, and I don't think I want either of those. It's a nice branch. If I prune it off, I'm just seeing what else is in this area. I've got another opposite branch here, so I've got to choose, between these two branches and maybe this one off. A difficult decision. I think I'll keep this branch. I'll prune the little one off here. Like that. And then the one coming out the back, I think, this branch will grow up into this area, and I think it's just too much in that apex. So even though it's a really nice branch, it's growing over top of the one below it, so I'm going to remove it completely. Like that. So I've got my apex dividing into two, and I've got a third branch coming off quite close, but for now I'm going to leave that. I'm going to prune this branch up, so I'm looking again for outward facing leaves. And I have, I'll prune it back to here. Taking the tip off. This one, I'll just take the tip off. And then I have an opposite branch going on the inside here that I'm going to remove completely, so I don't have opposite handlebar branches there. This branch coming out the back I can prune back shorter. And then this apex, if I let this grow, I'll get a very long kind of thick branch with no movement. So I need to prune it off shorter. I think I'll go to at least here, taking that off. And this one I'll just take the tip off. Like that. Now, off of this branch that comes out the back, I have an upright branch which I like. And on this one I'll just prune the tip off. Like that. And then I've got a long branch coming down from the bottom. I'm going to prune it back to at least here, taking the tip off. I may go further on that one. This one is fine. I've kind of got this branch growing above this one. I'm thinking maybe I better remove this lower one and develop my upright branch. So I think I will. I'm going to take this one off. So I'll come in here. It's a tough branch. Oh my goodness. It's quite strong. Let me use the ironwood pruners. Oak wood is quite tough. There. That's off. That looks good. Yeah, I think everything's good there now. Down lower I have this branch, which is nice. I've got my lowest branch. Now on the lowest branch I want it to grow upright again, so let's have a look at that one. Here is that branch. So I've got a division of 3 here. And I think I'll prune this one back to an outward facing leaf. And then I think this vertical one on this side could be removed entirely. Like that. And then this one I will also prune the tip off. Like that. And that has got the largest oak pruned up. So now we can look at the smaller one. Here's a look at the smaller tree. And again, I have a bit of a cluster of branches in the apex here. So I have to figure out what I'm going to do here. I like that all the branches are reaching upwards and outwards. It's a pretty good structure. This one is starting to interfere with the tree beside it, so I'm going to take it off at an outward facing leaf here. Take the tip off. There's a branch reaching up here that I can take the tip off, like that. This one I can reduce back to here. There's one growing towards the inside of the tree. I'm going to remove that one. Above this branch I have an outwards facing leaf here, so I can prune the tip off. I've got an opposite branch to that one over here that I'm going to remove entirely. I have another branch below it. I'll prune this one back to there. And then I have a vertical one growing up here that I will also prune to an outwards facing leaf. I'll have to go up here to there. I've got a branch coming from down below here that I'll also prune to some outward facing leaves. I've got a pair here, so I'll take the tip off like that. I've got a strong branch going up the bottom here. Prune it back to some outwards facing leaves. I'll take this leaf off that's growing vertically. There's a branch here. Take the tip off it like that. And there's a leaf growing towards the inside of the tree here I can remove just to get a little more light in there. This one can be removed, this leaf. And I think that's it. I think I've got it pruned up. I could prune this one back. Yeah, I'll just take the tip off this one. And that's got it pruned up. Let's have a look at the trees now. Here's a look at the two oaks. So that's got a lot of the problem areas sorted out on them now. Reduce the branches back so they can put a second flush of growth out now. I'll get more branching, more density to the canopies, and yeah, so we'll keep our eyes on it and just keep pruning it up. And little by little, over the many years ahead, they should turn into mighty oaks. The next trees I'll be pruning up are my red maples. These were started from a seed in my little Penjing display. They're growing quite well and need pruning, so here I go. Here's a look at the Red Maple Penjing. So the trees are getting quite tall. I don't want to grow them into tall, spindly trees. I want to keep them as miniature looking as I can get them. So there's a lot of growth. You can see the shoots have grown and they're growing their next. There's a set of leaves here and it's extending up. So I can prune all these new shoots back to the first set of leaves, making the trees a little more compact. So I think that's what I'll do, is just kind of a bit of tip pruning. All right, I'll begin. So I'll prune everything back to the first pair of leaves, taking the tips off. And then I may have to do some branch selection also. I think that's got all the growing tips reduced back. So now I've got to look at the branches and do some selection. There's a stub here I can clean up. Any leaves that are crossing back over the tree I'll take off, so there'll just be one leaf per branch on this one. That one's okay. This one I'll take off the leaf on the inside. So sort of a bit of partial defoliation. There's a tip I missed here I can take back. This one I could take back further. Maybe, yeah, I better. It's getting a little too long. there's a leaf here growing across everything else. I'm going to take that off. Getting more light to the other branches. I think this one also, I'll just, I've already only got one leaf here. I think because it's in the apex, I'm going to take it off to get light to these ones. If the branches don't get light, they don't stay vigorous. There are some buds coming out on this tree down low here. They're good backups if I ever want to shorten the tree back to them, so I'll let those grow. There's another bud coming off down here. Move this leaf. Take this leaf off. Reducing a lot of these from 2 leaves down to 1 leaf, just to get more light into the trees. Take that one off. Thinning them out. Take this one off too. That's looking better. There's a tip I could pinch out here. I think that's about it. So let's have a look at the trees now. So there's a look at the trees, and these leaves are quite large, so you'll find when the next set of buds activate and start growing, the next set of leaves will be smaller, and then you can remove these larger ones once those branch out. So I expect, when it starts shooting out again, I'll get smaller leaves, and then I can remove the larger ones, and it'll look much more miniature. Yeah, so that's got that little penjing all pruned up. The next trees I'll be working on are these paper bark birch trees. So we discussed paper bark birches in the Toronto Bonsai Society over one Zoom meeting, and the general consensus was that you only prune them when they're actively growing. So if I were to prune this in winter when the leaves have fallen off, that you start to get branch dieback, that it's safer to let it flush out with the leaves and then do the pruning. So I'm going to use that philosophy. There's 2 trees in this planting, and they were both started from seed. So I think a lot of it is just going to be reducing the new growth back, making it a little more compact, and maybe cleaning up. There's a few dead branches, a few stubs I can clean up, and that will probably be about it. And again, you just don't want these branches to grow long without any movement or subdividing. Otherwise, then you have to do hard pruning on your branches, and they may or may not survive. So yeah, it's better to kind of clip and grow it from young and try and maintain the shape as you grow it. All right, I'm ready to begin the pruning. So where to start? Well, let's start at the apex. So this tree, I cut it back. I just cut it off right here. It was growing very, very tall. And I have to pick a new leader that I'm going to grow up as the continuation of my trunk line. And this is the tallest and most vigorous one. That would make sense, but it's also coming out lower down from the cut. I have a higher branch here. So this probably should be my new apex and make this one into a branch. So I will do that. I will cut this one off. I have a branch fanning outwards down here. So I'll cut it off here, and I'll leave a stub for dieback. So here comes a big cut. Taking that leader off. I've got a stub here from previous pruning I can clean up. And there's a dead branch here I can prune away. And a stub up here I can prune away. So there's my new apex to the tree. I have a branch coming up the front here. I have some leaves fanning out down below, so I'll take the tip off that one. There's a branch growing from the inside of this branch here that I'm going to remove. Like that. And then, well, I've got another dead branch on the inside here. Probably got shaded out. I've got the back here. I've got a branch growing up here that's getting very tall. There's a stub I can clean up. And I've got a leaf here and a bud here, so I'm going to prune it back to there. The other side of this branch, I have a nice branch fanning out here, so I'll prune it just above there. This lowest branch, I have a vertical shoot here I'm going to remove. And then I need to cut this one back also. So let's see where. I'm looking for, there's a branch that fans outwards, so I'll take the tip off. There's a bud on the inside I'll remove. Like that. And I may be able to shorten it in the future back to these branches. There's a stub here I can clean up. The other side, there's a branch coming off here. There's a stub. And I can shorten this one. This branch is going the wrong direction. I do have a bud there. I'll just take the tip off. Like that. This branch, I've got a stub here, or a dead branch. Clean that up, and another stub here I can clean up. And I'll just take the tip off on this one. Like that. So I think that has the main tree pruned up. So now I can do the little one that's growing up beside it here. I'm going to remove this leaf that's crossing the little one, leaving just one leaf on that branch here. And then this one, I've got a lower branch that's got a vertical part I'm going to prune off, keeping it a more horizontal branch. I've got a stub here I'll remove once I finish the pruning. The apex of this tree would be this one. So all the rest are kind of side branches, so I can take the tip off this one. Like that. This one, I can just remove some of these leaves on the inside. Getting a little more light in there. There's one out the back here. I can prune the tip off. Like that. This one. I've got some nice branches down low, and I don't need to grow this one tall. Not yet anyway, so I'll prune it back to here. Keeping my small shoots down below. And then the apex, I do have a chance. I have a branch going out the back here. I could reduce it back to that one. I don't think I will though. I think I'll just take the tip off here. Like that. Maybe even a bit further to this outward facing branch here. There's a stub here I can clean up. So that has got all the major pruning done. Next, I'm going to clean up these stubs where I pruned it. You can see where the stub has died back to the living tissue here. So I'll remove the dead section just to make that transition a little better. Just going down to my live tissue. There, I'm getting down to the living tissue now. Like that, that's good. And the other smaller tree, I have a stub here that I can take back to the living tissue again, like that. Yeah, so those trees are pruned up. I will put a bit of rubber cement on those cuts that I just did, just to seal them up. Like that. And the big one up here. Like that. And that has got the two paperbark birches pruned up. There's a few little shoots at the bottom that I'm going to let grow. Yeah. So with it cleaned out like this, there's more light getting to the branches, so some of these buds further down the branches might activate, so I can prune it back even tighter in the future. But that's about all I can do to this tree for now. Today is a really nice day. We have a high of 17 degrees Celsius, and then tonight the temperature is dropping, and we have a chance of snow tomorrow and the next day. The next tree I'll be working on is my smaller European Buckthorn. I started this tree from a seed in the front garden, and I clipped and grew it over many years. And because the front garden is quite dry, I got a lot of dieback on it. If you see the back of the trunk, there's a lot of deadwood on it. But it's quite a nice looking tree. My goal is to cut the top off and grow this as the new leader, making it a more compact tree and getting rid of this kind of long straight section up top here. Yeah, that's my goal. I'm just afraid if I cut this off, this top off, that I'll get a lot of dieback. And yeah, I may do it today. I don't know. I'll think about it. But I'm going to also clean up the structure. I've got a lot of branches that are kind of growing chaotically. Here is a look at the tree. This is the front. And if I rotate it around, you can see the deadwood on the back, this whole section. Now, deadwood lasts a long time on these European buckthorns, so as this kind of heals and calluses over, it may become a feature in the future. But for now, it's at the back. Yeah, so I'm just, afraid if I cut this off, I'm going to get more dieback down the trunk, and I may be left with a very thin live vein possibly. But I do want to do that. I want to do that someday. Maybe today. I gotta think. There is a big wound here, so I could just cut it, right through there. I took this branch off in the past, and it's died back a bit, but not too bad. I don't think it went down the whole trunk line. So maybe I'll do that. Take a chance on the tree to improve it for the future. Okay, here I go. This is a big cut, but I think it's one I have to do. I'm going to leave a stub for dieback. So I'll come in, you can see the wound here. I'll come in kind of right like this. Okay, big cut coming up. Here I go. Click, click, click. It is done. Wow. Let's have a look at the tree now. Here's a look at the tree from the front. So I think it's really improved the overall look of the tree. Yeah, I'm quite happy with that cut. I will seal it with rubber cement. And then in the future, I will carve it back flush. But for now, I'll just leave that stump on there. Just like that. I pruned up the branches on the tree, taking off a lot of stubs from the last pruning and a lot of branches that were crossing. So it's all cleaned up now, the tree. In the ground, these trees, if you prune a branch off, they send out a cluster of new branches. They're very vigorous and, really good for bonsai in the ground. In the front garden where this tree was planted, it was very dry, so it always struggled. But ever since I put this tree in a pot and I've watered it well, it's always done really well. So I think it'll do well in the future. I think my new leader will grow. I don't think I'll get any dieback down the trunk. If I do, I do. But I think the form is improved, and I think it'll just continue to get better into the future. So let's have a final look at the tree. Here is a look at the tree from the front. And we're coming around to the right-hand side, to the back, to the left-hand side, and back to the front. European buckthorn is considered an invasive species here in Ontario, so you see lots of them growing in forests, and they grow straight as an arrow. You'll never find one with a curvy trunk like this unless you're very, very lucky. This one was clipped and grown over many years to get the subtle curves and movement to the trunk, and it's looking really nice. It's kind of special for a European buckthorn to have this kind of shape. So I'm really looking forward to developing this tree into the future. It's one of my favorite little bonsais, and I hope it just continues to thrive and do better and better as it progresses. The last tree I'll be working on today is my white ash tree. This was also grown in the front garden over many years, and then I dug it up. I haven't repotted this year, so I'm going to prune up the top of the tree, getting it a little more compact and developing more branching for the summer. Ash trees, the branches will just grow long and straight. So what I want to do is clip the new growth back to the first set of leaves, getting more compact growth with more movement and more branching. So on this branch, you can see I have two little semi-leaves at the base here with dormant buds. So I could prune it right back and that would survive. Or I could go up to the next set of leaves up here and prune the tip off, pruning the middle off of the branch, and then see what develops. But I think I'll do that. I think I better be safe than sorry. If I prune back to those two little starter leaves, the branch could die off. So I'll just tip prune off all my kind of growing tips of these branches back to the first set of leaves. And we'll see how it does. I think that's pretty well got it. So next I'll take out some of the stubs from the last time I pruned it, just to clean up the structure. I think that's got it. So the last thing I want to do to this tree is I have some suckers coming up from the roots that I need to prune away. So here's those little suckers growing up from the root system. So I'll use my other scissors. I don't want to use my good scissors when I'm digging into soil like this. And then there's some around this side too. And this is something I just have to do many times over the summer. They always want to send up new shoots from the roots. It would be easy to create a clump style with this species, that's for sure. Then, that's not the last thing I need to do. The next thing I need to do is weed it, because I have a lot of weeds in here. So I'll just come in with my tweezers and try and pull the weeds out by the roots. Okay, so that is weeded. Let's have a final look at the tree. Here is a look at my white ash So here's the front of the tree, coming around to the right hand side, the back of the tree, the left hand side, and back to the front. Before we go today, I'm just going to show you a look at my cotoneaster. It's beginning to flower, and I'll give you an update when it is in full flower, but this will be a sneak preview. Here it is, and you can see the flowers forming on it, just starting to show some pink, which is very exciting. The tree's looking quite nice. It's got a few suckers coming up from the roots that I think I'll expand into a forest. Yeah, so that's a sneak preview, and I'll show you it once all the flowers are out on it. So it should be quite exciting. It'll get berries in fall. Yeah, cool little tree. I did some spring pruning today, and quite hard on the buckthorn. Fingers crossed on that one. I've got a lot of watering to do in the greenhouse today. It's a warm day and the trees are coming out into leaf and using lots of water, so that's what I'll be doing this afternoon. And that's all for today. I'm Nigel Saunders. Thanks for joining me in the Bonsai Zone.